Welcome to the Small Business Show Live. My name is Swire from Garuda Promo. Today we're going to have a serious, more topic to discuss. I have Garrett Charity, that lawyer from McCarthy Law. Good morning, Garrett.
Hey, good morning, Swire. Thanks for having me.
With the economy right now, you probably are very busy and having a lot of tough conversation with your clients. So would you mind to give us a quick bio and then what you do for your clients to the viewers?
Sure, Swire. Thanks for having me. I really enjoy, opportunities like this because we have to be creative right now. I started at McCarthy Law 7.5 years ago in the Century City office. And at that time, we were still coming out of the Great Recession. So there were so many people with lots of debts from the mortgage crisis and so many different businesses with debts, consumer debts, lots of student loan debts. And after that period of time, we had the economy recover, and we had a tremendous amount of credit extended out to the consumer and the business population. Before going into the COVID crisis, we had actually, Swire, you might not know this, we had the most debt ever in the history of America with consumer credit cards and student loans and an overall consumer and business debt, the highest levels ever, even before post-Great Recession. So going into COVID, there's just a lot of debt issues to work out. And, but in general, when you have situations like this happen in life, especially for entrepreneurs, it presents an opportunity to problem solve and be innovative and be creative. So managing debt is one of those things that as I said, I've done for 7.5 years. And we have so many creative ways to restructure and settle business loans, consumer debt, student loans. So I'm happy to be here with you today and talk about some of those ways and give you some client stories and give a positive message to people that if you are a person that is struggling with debt, if you are a person that is missing your monthly payments or feeling the squeeze between food or paying your rent or paying medical bills or paying back a loan, then I'm a person that you can talk to and a good resource for a ton of great information.
Great. So let the viewer know also what will be the difference between talking to debt lawyers like yourself compared to just file for bankruptcy. What would be that different?
So bankruptcy is a very code-based law, and you either fit into it or you don't. There are some exclusions that are pretty well known. If you have too much equity in a home that you own or a piece of property, or if you have too much cash flow, then it's harder to fit into a bankruptcy. I occupy a niche space between doing nothing and trying to pay everything back, and then bankruptcy, probably filing a Chapter 7 and paying nothing back. And I operate this middle space where I defend my clients who owe debt to a creditor or a debt collector or a debt buyer, and we renegotiate that debt typically to a much lower amount than the original balance. With my fees included, you're probably paying back about 60% of what you owe over a period of time. Could be 3 years, could be 4 years or longer. But I occupy this niche space for people who have too much money to fit into a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, but too little money to meet their minimum payments and pay back the debt.
Is it possible to share some examples, and like when would you know I should begin a conversation with you?
Sure. As soon as possible is the answer. If you are worried, because I talk to any potential client for free as many times as we need to give them all the information they need so they can take the best road for them. And the reason I say that is because as a lawyer, I know that as this goes on longer, you risk a greater opportunity for a lawsuit. I defend all my clients from those lawsuits. I comb into those debt contracts and look for any way I can to settle those lawsuits for as little as possible. But it's always better to have the conversation earlier if you're worried about any of your debts at all. I'll give you a few stories.
Mm-hmm.
At a movie studio here in Los Angeles, and they took out a lot of debt for a major project. And then they had some parties pull out of that project, and they were stuck with a lot of that debt and no other projects coming in with a stream of income. So we worked together to renegotiate those debts for less and pay back a fraction of what they owed, kept them out of bankruptcy and kept them in business so they could go on to their other projects. I've had real estate projects and real estate contracts, for instance, where I've had developers who were developing a major project, and then their funder pulled out, and they had taken out loans and credit card debts to pay their subcontractors and pay for raw materials. And we had to renegotiate all those debts and keep them out of bankruptcy so they could keep doing business. I've had restaurants, for instance, who are facing tremendous hardship right now,
Right.
need to exit their commercial leases. And I do that work as well. We renegotiate with the property managers and the commercial landlords and negotiate those exits from those leases so they're not hit with a big whopping sum of money on those leases. And Swire, just the run-of-the-mill consumer, everyday Joes like you and me who had a bunch of credit card debt, and the economy was humming along, and possibly we thought we were going to pay that credit card debt off with an end of the year bonus or our next big client, and then the pandemic hit and people got stuck with a lot of debts. It doesn't have to be who you think it is. I've had partners at law firms or partners at advertising agencies who had a major client walk out on them, and all of a sudden they were making, let's say, $200,000 a year. Now they're making $100,000 a year. They have in private school, and they have their mortgage, and they have car payments, and other obligations to keep the roof over their family's head. So they've given me $100,000 in credit card debt to renegotiate and to settle for less. So it's a very common thing for many people, much more common than we all think it is. And I'm really happy to be there for those people, to show them that there's another pathway besides going late, tapping into your 401k, beg, borrowing, and stealing from your family members. And that's why I'm so glad to talk to you and get ahead of these. So I have less clients that call me and say, you know what, I already wiped out my 401k. I already wiped out my nest egg to pay off these creditors, and the debt is still not gone. I'm still in the hamster wheel of interest payments and minimum payments. What do I do now? So that's why I'm happy to, answer that question definitively. Talk to me as early as possible if you're worried about that.
Yeah, I think we had this segment very timely too, because we have been slowly reopening, but then yesterday we all learned the news that a lot of the businesses are going back to shutdowns, and political statement aside, there are going to be more people affected. They put in a lot of effort to reopen. They buy material. They set up their place differently. Now I know some studio like a health bar just reopened last week, and now they have to shut down. So would you mind to share some of the conversation that you probably had with your clients yesterday? Like, what are they concerned about right now?
Concerned about leases a lot, concerned about being locked into lease payments. As people know, many creditors over the last 3 or 4 months were putting people on pauses for repaying their loans, whether they were credit card debts or mortgages or rents. And now those pauses are over. Lots of creditors are coming to call, but the economy still is not back to where it should be. People's earnings are still not to where they should be, and they're trying to figure out, okay, how do I pay this Wells Fargo credit card debt or this business loan that was on pause for a while, or how to manage, some clients have car fleets or leasing vehicles, and they had pauses, and now those pauses are over. So right now, if your creditors are being aggressive and not realizing the reality of your situation, then hiring a tough lawyer and a tough law firm to renegotiate those debts and settle them for less is a great option for a lot of people who are being harassed by their creditors in a very challenging time. And it goes to show that you've had many different situations, I think, over the past 3 months where we've seen the creditors can be tremendously flexible. They've obviously paused people's payments and, put payments on the end of a term of a loan for other people. And I guess one of my good messages here today is that it doesn't have to be a worldwide hardship or a worldwide pandemic for a creditor to renegotiate and give you a better deal. All my clients over the 7.5 years have individual hardships that I've been able to use to renegotiate their debt less.
Okay, so I guess for working with a professional like yourself, you would see obviously what's going wrong and what are the debts that are available outstanding there, then you negotiate and help them restructure each and every one of them. So maybe some don't even need to touch, and some that are more aggressive that needs to be addressed sooner than the others.
100%. I've had clients, for instance, and you may have seen some of these merchant loans for businesses, or basically they're more along the lines of a payday loan for a business.
Right, like prepay you the money first.
Really aggressive daily payments and weekly payments, and businesses are suffering under some of these daily and weekly payments that are required. And I had a loan recently that I did twice. I restructured it first into monthly payments, and then in further negotiation with their creditor, they were willing to take a lump sum that was about 40% of the original balance to walk away completely from the loan in full satisfaction of the outstanding debt. And they took that lump sum, and now that business is open and flourishing and has eliminated a massive debt off their shoulders due to that renegotiation process. So it really does help a lot of people sleep better at night, but also simply just stay in business and not be suffering under. This particular client had daily payments to this lender, and by the end of it, they were walked away with a lump sum.
Yeah, there's so much to worry about running a small business, as you probably know. This just throw at us with no notice at all, and now it's doing it again. So it's good to begin a conversation with you, maybe just to even find out what the options are. Are there anything that Garrett can help me? Because I might not need total forgiveness, maybe just a little bit more time or a better term, like you put it, and then it will help me get back on my feet to do what I needed to do.
Exactly. And one of the bigger ones for me right now, actually, Swire, are people that are business owners, but maybe they were professionals that took out significant student loan debt to run their business and suffering under private student loans. Private student loans are notoriously difficult to bankrupt. Damn near impossible, actually. So, but private student lenders will renegotiate those debts, either for a less lump sum payout or, like any of my debts, business loans, credit cards, and student loan debts, a term payout. Let's say I've negotiated many different term payouts, for instance, 40 cents on the dollar, but payable over 24 months. So that client doesn't have to come up with 40% of that lump sum, right? For the settlement. They can do it over a longer term and spread out, which allows people to stay afloat, manage their cash flow better, stay in business, keep going. So student loans have also been a big major source of my calls coming in lately, and people that are dealing with creditors that are just unwilling to give them a better deal and force them into default and force them into debt collection, or worse, send the loan to a lawsuit, send the loan to a litigation attorney for a lawsuit. So I really love helping people in this space. And every call I have with anyone, they always feel so much better knowing the options available to them.
Okay. So Garrett, glad I have you on the show. I'm going to put your email address here. Like Garrett said, free consultation. If you have a question, talk to Garrett. He's a very nice person to talk to. And then when would they make the call? Like what just any question about that, or how would they know that they might need to really think serious about speaking to you for your advice?
Sure. If they are struggling to make their minimum payments or behind on minimum payments for any debt at all, a business loan, a business credit card debt, a consumer credit card debt, student loan, it's time to call me and have that conversation. And we can talk about the full spectrum, meaning we can talk about what happens if you do nothing and maybe things will get better, looking at what I have to offer, or possibly me even referring you to a bankruptcy attorney if you fit into the bankruptcy code. But as soon as you're feeling the squeeze with your minimum payments and you're thinking this month or next month will be the month that you're finally going to go late, then it's time to talk to me. Or I've had many calls come in for people that say, I've been making my minimum payments for years and my debt is still $20,000 10 years later. And I'm just never getting rid of this debt. It seems like I'm going to die with this debt. So it's time for me to maybe do something else, do a negotiation, restructure this debt so I can move on with my life.
Thank you so much for coming on today. We appreciate the information. Please go ahead and like our Facebook page, follow us on YouTube, and thank you so much for coming on today, Garrett.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Swire. Appreciate it.